Jason Swenk, tell us first how you are rocking the podcast. Are you a guest? Are you a host? Are you both? Tell everyone kind of how you rock the podcast.
Yeah, I'm actually doing both. So obviously I have two shows that I actually produce on a weekly basis. And, I think all of my clients that I've actually gotten over the years have all come from the podcast. And then
Really?
obviously, yeah, it's been amazing. Every time I always have, whenever anybody engages with me, I ask them two questions. I ask them, what are they most excited about learning and why did they want to work with me? And almost always, they always say, I've been listening to your podcast for a while and getting really good information and just thought it was time.
And do you think that people hear you on other shows and then come over and listen to your podcast before they call you?
Yeah, a lot of them actually do, right? Mm-hmm. Because you got to think about my audience that I serve as digital agencies. So a lot of times they don't know what to search on podcasts. So I'll get on other shows, whether it be like, Conversion Cast or whoever, and then they'll hear me there and hear the story, and then obviously I'll mention our podcast.
Yeah, I just did a video about why you shouldn't just be a guest because it's easier. A lot of people are like, I'll just be a guest, but the whole funnel I think that's successful is when you're a guest on shows and you host your own, because a lot of listeners who hear you on another show, then they're going to listen to yours, and then you can, because you can't really pitch and sell your services on somebody else's show, but if it's your podcast, you can be more upfront with, hey, this is how you can work with me. Do you kind of follow that same,
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm never pitching on anybody else's show. I'm trying to give it as much value as I possibly can. And even when I get on my show, right, most of the time I'm giving as amazing value to them. But obviously it's my prerogative to kind of say, hey, if you want to know more about this, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah. Do you have a specific story you could tell us? I mean, you said pretty much all your clients you said have come from like the podcast. Is there one that stands out to you?
I mean, all of them. I mean, really, they all say I've been listening to your podcast. Even my clients, they even kind of, and the funny thing is as I'm recording the podcast, like I'm literally 6 months ahead. So my clients will be like, hey, I love that episode on sales. Can we go more into what? And I'll be like, I don't even know what episode you're talking about. It was so far out in advance. Give me a little bit of context and then we'll go from there. But, for one particular story, I mean, that's the beauty about podcasting. That's been my number one source of leads and revenue and just, establish credibility, because I tell people, hey, if you like listening to the podcast and you like my personality there, you'll love working with me or you'll love the programs. If you hate me, if you think my voice is scratchy and it's like nails on a chalkboard, then don't, it's almost kind of a pre-qualifier.
Yeah. Because you've been so successful in getting business from podcasting, both as a guest and a host, one of the questions I get asked a lot is like, how can I really leverage these interviews? Being on the show is one thing, but are you doing stuff outside of the interviews, either things that you do to build your relationship with the host or ways to get the interview heard by more people?
Well, it's all about just promoting, right? We're creating content, but that's about 20% of the work. The 80% actually goes into promoting it and the distribution and where do you put it. One of the channels that I use both for things that I'm on as well as for my podcast is I've created a private Facebook group it's free, but I'm very selective of who I actually let in. And there's a couple thousand people in it, I guess we started about a year ago. So whenever we have a new podcast, we put it out there. So all those people actually, give it a listen and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's
do you have somebody that helps you manage that Facebook group, or is that something that you do?
I do. No, I have someone that helps me. So Stacy helps me greatly, and she's been working with me for 2 years.
Yeah, because I've recommended that to clients. I said Facebook groups are great, but they take a lot of time to grow and to manage and to oversee, like making sure people aren't spamming. So definitely investing in somebody that can help you is a good idea. So I'm not surprised that you do that.
Yeah, and a lot of the members in there actually self-police, so they'll actually flag the POSs out there. And then we can just block and terminate them, right?
Yeah.
And it's fun, but it's also too. I mean, you can learn amazing things from what people are asking, so then you can actually determine what particular topics do I need to bring up for the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I'll close this out by telling us about what you do, in your business, and then what are you going on podcasts to talk about, and then what you focus on in your podcast.
Well, it's all about
question.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. So
I have a tendency to do that. One question, and then I go on. But yeah, just tell us about yourself and what you do.
So I'm an ex-horse jockey. I'm 6'3", 230-pound horse jockey. I'm the biggest horse jockey in the world. No, I'm just kidding. But
Don't you race cars, though?
I do. I do race cars. But well, the funny thing is when people would meet me, when you go to a networking event, people would go up to you and be like, "What's the first thing that you do?" They're like, "What do you do?" I'd be like, "I'm a horse jockey," and like I'm towering over them, and they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "It's a big horse." So I just mess with them. So, but what I do is I used to be a digital agency owner and I sold the business, and so now I help and serve other agency owners like my previous self in order to really kind of scale and grow and get to the next level of wherever they're going. So that was one question, but the other two questions obviously flew out.
So so we know that you help digital agency owners because you grew one, you sold one, now you help them. When you go on podcasts as a guest, what are you interviewed about? What do they ask you? Because the idea is that the content that you deliver there kind of leads people to what you do, right?
Yeah, it's all about the selling of the agency or the different systems that we use in order to get to the next level. And that's why everybody interviews. Or the other ones for kind of the general podcast that will go on is around marketing and figuring out, how am I using automation and some marketing in order for the general population to figure it out.
Yeah. And then on your podcast, you have two shows or just?
I have two shows.
Okay. And so what are those two podcasts called?
One is called the Smart Agency Masterclass, and that's on iTunes. And then the other one is the Ask Swenk Show. It's also on iTunes, but it's also on YouTube.
And is the Ask Swenk Show like questions for you that you answer?
Yeah, so it's 3 questions every week that I answer from my audience.
Nice.
And then we distribute the heck out of it after that.
Awesome. And then the Smart Agency Masterclass? Are you still interviewing guests on that, or are those solo shows? Yeah. Yeah,
no solo shows there. They're all interviews. So I'll bring in amazing other agency owners or people that tell a really good story for agencies.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Jason, how can people reach out to you if they want to have you on their show, or if they are a digital agency owner that they think they'd be a good guest for your show? What's the best way for them to contact you?
Go to jasonswank.com/wahoo.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
All right. Take care.